Black Friday was only a handful of hours away when every alert inside the Seattle headquarters lit up red. Engineers shouted over one another, managers pinged every channel they could find, and someone yelled that customer carts were duplicating themselves. To most of them, it looked like a server overload. To the few who knew better, every failure pointed to the same foundation, the sync engine I built. The engine only I ever truly understood. And the collapse began with one email they sent me while I was in Bali, accusing me of using too many vacation days. I remember opening that email on a quiet morning, the kind where the world feels far away. My name is Averly Cross, and I spent 4 years keeping LumaSync standing. That morning, I sat on a rented balcony overlooking nothing more dramatic than a cup of cooling tea. No warnings, no call, just a termination notice dressed up as administrative compliance. I stared at the screen, reading the line twice, effective immediately. I whispered it out loud, tasting the absurdity of it. They had approved every day I requested. They had begged me not to burn out. They had watched me work through weekends, holidays, and more midnights than I cared to count. And now they were firing me for resting. A message bubble appeared from Damien Hauff, the CEO. No greeting, no human tone, just, we expect a smooth transition. I let out a breath that barely reached my chest. A smooth transition, I said quietly. Sure. I scrolled to the folder I kept tucked away where no one thought to look. Contract, Addendum, Clause 7. I took a photo of the page, the one line that returned the license of my engine to me if they terminated me without cause. The line they all called unnecessary. I attached it to a reply and typed only 3 words, per Clause 7. Then I hit send. Somewhere in Seattle, alarms kept expanding across screens. In Bali, I set my phone down and finally finished my tea, already knowing Chapter 2 of my story would not unfold the way Damien expected. I had not won many battles at LumaSync, but I won Clause 7 and I won it alone. I still remember the early days in South Lake Union, when the office barely had chairs that matched, and Damien Hauff still pretended to know how to write code. He waved a stack of onboarding papers at me like they were nothing more than grocery receipts. Standard contract, he said. We move fast here, Averly. No need for extra legal padding. I scanned the documents anyway. I want a licensing clause for the sync engine. If I build it under my own LLC, the rights stay with me unless we negotiate otherwise. Damien laughed under his breath. You think we're going to steal your code? We are a family. Remember, beside him, Holly from HR pushed her glasses up her nose. This level of protection isn't typical for new hires. It complicates payroll and intellectual property tracking. It protects me, I said. And it protects you if I ever leave. Damien rolled his eyes. Leave? You just got here. Why are we planning your exit already? Because at my last job, I watched a lead engineer take credit for 6 months of my work and walk away with a promotion. Because I learned that loyalty only matters when both sides practice it. But I did not tell him any of that. Instead, I tapped the line I had drafted myself. Clause 7. Termination without cause reverts the license to me. That's it. He leaned back, annoyed. Fine. If it gets you to sign today, we will add it. But no one is ever going to use this. It is pointless. It is necessary, I said quietly. Holly sighed, scribbled a note for legal, and slid the contract back to me. Damien was already halfway out the door, muttering that engineers were getting too dramatic these days. I signed anyway, not to win, to survive. Why would a CEO fire the one person holding the legal spine of their entire system? The email claimed I had exceeded allowable paid time off, but anyone who worked in Seattle's tech circle knew firings were rarely about vacation days. The truth started unraveling long before Bali. I heard pieces of it later, mostly from people who still cared enough to talk. Damien had walked into a meeting with the investors 2 weeks before Black Friday. One of them reportedly said, "Your Q3 numbers are flat. Fix it or we start pulling money." Afterward, our CFO cornered him. I remember hearing her voice through the glass. "We have an audit coming. If the infrastructure is not stable, it is your name on the report," Damien snapped. "Then I will make it stable. I will make cuts. I will show them I am decisive." 2 days later, he scheduled a mandatory all-hands for the Friday before Black Friday. I was already in Bali. After months of approved planning, I messaged him as soon as I saw the invite. "I am abroad. I can call in, but the time difference is rough. He replied one sentence. Attendance is expected, I typed back. I cannot join in the middle of the night, but I can record an update. I could almost hear his irritation bleeding through the typing bubbles. Forget it. When I returned from dinner that night, Holly from HR called me. Her voice was tight. He is upset. He feels you are not committed. I have never missed a deadline, I said. Never. I know, she whispered. But he needs someone to blame for the quarter. By the time Bali's morning arrived, the decision was made. No discussion, no conversation, just the email telling me I was done. Humiliation came first, then betrayal, and then something sharper, clarity. They expected me to fold quietly, the way I always had in the past. If they thought I would stay silent, why did they never consider what silence can cost? The moment LumaSync marked me as terminated without cause, the system began shifting quietly, legally, automatically. There was no dramatic keystroke, no switch I flipped. Clause 7 did exactly what it had been designed to do, deep inside their servers. The license to my engine reverted to my LLC. The runtime keys went dark. API access slipped out of their control. My sync layer, the one they depended on for every cart, wishlist, discount, and user profile, simply pulled itself back. By mid-morning in Seattle, the Black Friday prep team started to notice. A junior engineer sent a message in the main channel. Why are half the calls coming back unauthorized? Another chimed in. My endpoint just threw a license mismatch error. Someone tagged the CTO. Is this a glitch? The CTO typed a single word, investigating. But the system already knew the truth. It was following the contract they never read. Meanwhile, early customer pings began rolling in. A father trying to buy toys for his kids reported that his cart emptied itself 3 times. A college student said her promo codes vanished. Then a retail partner escalated. Your sync is collapsing. Fix it now. From Bali. My phone buzzed intermittently with alerts from a monitoring dashboard I still had access to. I watched numbers dip, retrays spike, and error logs multiply. I did not smile. I did not gloat. I only whispered, you should have read it. It was not sabotage. I had not touched a line of code since stepping on the plane. All I had done was step away from what they dropped. I set the phone aside and exhaled slowly, letting the sound disappear into the open air around me. How long could LumaSync last without the engine they took for granted by dawn in Seattle? The Slack channels looked like digital wildfire. Messages flew in faster than anyone could read them. Support tickets just tripled. Someone wrote, "Sync is failing across regions." Another added. A project manager tagged the entire engineering team. Why are carts disappearing? Customers are furious. Within minutes, screenshots poured in. A parent trying to check out had lost her cart twice. A teenager claimed every promo code returned an error. One message from a major retail partner hit harder than the rest. If this is not resolved immediately, we will reconsider our contract. The CFO, Miriam Lowe, stormed into the engineering floor. Do you understand what day it is? She snapped. Black Friday starts in less than 8 hours. We cannot afford even a 10-minute outage. The CTO swallowed hard. We are trying, Miriam. But every endpoint is throwing a license violation. License, she repeated. Why would there be a license issue? A junior engineer looked up from his screen. The errors started around the same time Averly Cross was marked. Terminated. Silence. Heavy and instant. Open her contract, Miriam said. Now. Someone in legal pulled it up on their tablet. Pages scrolled. Fingers froze. The color drained from her face. Oh no, the legal counsel whispered. Clause 7 is enforceable. We are in violation. Miriam pressed her hand to her forehead. Damien fired her without cause. He said it would be clean. He said she would not fight it. Another burst of Slack messages erupted. Server load rising, retries failing, users threatening refunds. In Bali. My phone buzzed again, but I let it ring. The storm they started was finally reaching its center. What happens when a chief executive officer realizes the only person who can save him already warned him once Damien called? Then texted. Then begged. I let every notification fade into silence. My phone vibrated so often it felt like a pulse that did not belong to me. The first voicemail was from the chief technology officer, Rowan. Averly, please call back. We need insight into the license errors. Just a few minutes. Please. The second came from Holly in HR. I know you are upset. and you have every right to be, but the timing is catastrophic. Can we talk, then legal? This is Amanda from Compliance. We are trying to interpret the language of Clause 7. If you could clarify. I ended the message before she finished saying clarify. Guilt tugged at the edge of my ribs. I knew the engineers trapped inside that building. I knew who would be blamed first, who would be blamed last. I remembered late nights in the Seattle office when the heating cut out, and I was still at my desk, rewriting the sync layer alone while Damien entertained investors upstairs. I remembered Rowan once saying, "If you quit, this place falls apart." Then he laughed like it was a joke. A new call came in. Damien this time. "Averly, this is getting out of hand. Be reasonable." I let it go to voicemail. When it stopped ringing, I finally spoke aloud. Not to him but to myself. "Reasonable was what I gave you for 4 years." Another voicemail arrived seconds later. Damien again. His tone cracked. "I am asking you as a teammate, as a friend. Help us stabilize this. Name your terms." So I wrote them down. One by one, prepaid consulting for a minimum of 6 hours. Acknowledgement of my intellectual property. And a public correction stating the engine belonged to me, not LumaSync. I sent the list with no greeting and no apology. If power could shift this fast, what was stopping me from rewriting everything about my future? While LumaSync unraveled, I sent 3 quiet messages to the only people who had ever fought for my work. No explanations, no details. Just, "Are you open to talking?" Leora Hale replied first. She had been our user experience lead before Damien reassigned her under someone half her age with a borrowed accent. Her message came in fast. "If you are involved." "I am in. What are we building?" Next was Bram O'Connell, the back-end engineer who once rebuilt an entire failover system while Damien was at a networking retreat. He wrote, "Tell me there is a chance to do things correctly this time." Finally, Marisol Vega. She could find a bug in a dream and wake up with the exact line number. Her response was simple. Name the place, name the time. I stared at the 3 messages, a warmth cutting through the cold I had been carrying. These were the people who stayed late with me, who argued for design integrity, who pushed for security instead of speed. They understood effort, the kind that did not fit on a presentation slide. We jumped into a call, voices layering over one another as ideas spilled out. Bram said, "Start cleaner, start modular," Leora added. "Transparent user control, no hidden sync behavior." Marisol leaned in. "And real testing, not whatever Damien called testing." I let myself breathe. If we build this, it is ours. No more erasing, no more begging for permission. There was a brief silence, not hesitant but full of possibility. A new email landed in my inbox mid-call. The subject line stopped me. "Averly Cross is the original architect available for a conversation." It was from ApexNet Systems, a major competitor along the Seattle tech corridor. I looked back at my friends. What if walking away from one empire meant building something better? The leaked boardroom video hit the internet before noon, and Damien's career ended before dinner. Someone had recorded him pacing at the head of the table, face red, voice sharp enough to cut drywall. "This is not my fault," he shouted. "Engineering failed, legal failed, everyone failed except me." A woman's voice in the room tried to break in. "Damien, the contract." He slammed a tablet onto the table. "Do not bring up Clause 7 again. She was replaceable." The clip cut off there, but it was enough. Within an hour, the comments were brutal. People reposted it with captions like, "This is leadership and Black Friday meltdown of the year." Major partners issued formal statements, distancing themselves from LumaSync. One pulled the plug entirely, citing breach of trust and performance instability. By mid-afternoon, an investor emailed the board demanding an emergency vote to review Damien's authority. That email leaked too. Then came the twist I did not expect. Someone posted a clean screenshot of Clause 7, the exact image I had sent Damien from Bali. No caption, just the clause itself. Thousands reshared it, pointing out that the engine had always belonged to me. "Meet the architect," one post said, "the silent backbone." I sat on the edge of my bed, phone in hand, watching the world dissect a story they barely knew. A text from Rowan arrived. "He has been suspended. They are investigating everything." I typed nothing back. I did not feel victory or triumph. I felt something lighter, a slow, steady exhale, after holding my breath for too many years. Notifications kept rolling. each one marking another fracture in the company that had insisted I was invisible. If the storm was finally breaking around Lumisync, I needed to decide what I would allow to take shape in its place. The competitor did not pitch, they listened, truly listened. That alone set ApexNet systems miles apart from Lumisync. When the video call connected, the ApexNet Chief Technology Officer, a calm man named Victor Lane, greeted me with a nod. "Averly Cross," he said. "We have followed your work for years. We would like to understand what you want, not what we should persuade you to accept." I leaned back slightly. What I want is autonomy, my own intellectual property, and space to build a system without shortcuts. Victor exchanged a glance with the product director beside him. "That aligns with what we plan to propose. A full licensing partnership. Your LLC remains intact. Your team retains ownership stakes. You set technical direction." Leora, Bram, and Marisol were on the call with me, their faces small in the corner of my screen. Leora spoke first. "And no interference from upper management, none," Victor said. "We hire people because we respect their competence, not to override it." Bram let out a low breath. "That is new," Marisol added, "and refreshing." I folded my hands. "Here are my terms: transparent licensing renewal every year, written acknowledgement of the engine's origin, and non-negotiable boundaries around data access." Victor nodded without hesitation. "Accept it." It was so simple, so clean, no posturing, no games. For the first time in years, I felt something shift inside me from survival to empowerment. An email notification slid across my screen, mid-meeting. I opened it quietly. It was from Lumisync's board. "Damien Hout has been removed permanently. We request a conversation regarding reinstating your license agreement." Leora saw my expression. "What now?" I closed the message and raised my eyes to the team I trusted. Would I grant Lumisync a second chance, or leave them to stand in the aftermath they created? I did not return to Lumisync. I did not want their apology, their offers, or their cleanup job. I wanted accountability, and I finally got it. Within a week, the board announced that Damien had been officially terminated and referred for investigation related to negligence and breach of fiduciary responsibility. His name vanished from the leadership page overnight. A separate notice came from Lumisync's legal team. They were required to license the public version of my engine, the stripped-down model lacking every optimization I had guarded for years. They asked if I would authorize temporary access to the advanced tier. I typed a short, formal response. "Use the public tier. Nothing more." Then I hit send. No anger, no thrill, just a boundary finally respected. Meanwhile, ApexNet moved quickly. Contracts were drafted, reviewed, finalized. Leora laughed when she read the final document. Everything we asked for, everything we never got there. Bram said he could breathe again. Marisol told me it felt like stepping into sunlight after too long underground. Our partnership launched quietly, without the dramatic announcements Damien used to love. No staged photographs, no promises we could not keep. Just a team choosing to build something clean and honest. Seattle felt different to me then, not the city where I had been dismissed, but the city where I could start over. A month later, I visited a small community tech workshop I used to volunteer at. The room was warm, filled with kids learning their first lines of code. One teenager approached me shyly. "Miss Cross, how did you know your work mattered if no one saw it?" I crouched beside him. "They did not see it," I said softly. "But I did. And that was enough to build something they could never take away." He nodded, absorbing every word. What happens when a woman stops waiting to be valued and starts valuing herself first?